And have you any questions or anything you want to know um, about yourself, or anything, any challenge that's coming into your life that you want to gather more insight?
I'm pretty much open to anything that comes up, but I think the only thing that really takes precedence in my mind is in a, like, I often struggle myself to step out beyond my fears or beyond my perceived limitations. So I wonder if there's anything that comes up for that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so if we look at your profile, I'll just explain to everyone else who's new to this at the start. So I'm trying to get Zoom out of the way here. Sorry, just bear with me. So when you download, if anyone who downloads their profile, you'll see on the first page, there'll be three main sectors. So the first is about your genius. This is about what you're here to do in the physical realm. So just reading these two lines can actually bring about change the more you contemplate on that and the more you give a pause. So for you, Brody, it's about, your deepest purpose is in life is to manifest the gift of farsightedness, and then to realize that is to transform the shadow of opinion. And then once you've gone through those different layers, then the second sequence of the profile involves your relationships, which is essentially the crux of Gene Keys. It's about how you can return non-love with love to any situation and to keep your heart open. And for you, it's about your greatest challenge is to transform the shadow of judgment into the gift of integrity. And then your highest expression of your heart is epiphany, which is a beautiful thing. And then we get to the last part, which is understanding the science of luck and how you can be prosperous in your life. So for you, it's through unlocking it through dynamism and through going through the shadow of provocation and thriving best as an entrepreneur. On the second page, for everyone, Rich has been very generous, the founder, and he's actually offered a quick paragraph to all your form prime gifts, which includes your life's work, your evolution, your radiance, and your purpose. I'll just leave that there for you to read in your time. And then, pardon me, then we have your profile. So I thought maybe for you, Brody, we'll just start with the life's work. So life's work is a theme that everybody has. It's what you're here to do in life. And within the sphere, you'll see a gene key. It doesn't matter what number it is, whether it's a high or a low number, but there'll be one of 64 gene keys. And that gene key will reveal to you your gifts and your shadows and your patterns of how to unlock that and how to unlock your genius. You then have a dot after that number, and then you have another number. The number in your case is a 2, and that's just a reference point to give you another side, a refinement of the story. So if we look at your life's work, we can see there are 3 different layers and spectrum. So at the lower end, there's dissatisfaction, which is your fear and shadow. And then at the higher end, it's about bliss. It's about attaining the state of nirvana. And then in between that is the bridge, which is your genius, and that's vitality. Okay, so if we look at your life's work from the shadow perspective, this is about the dilemma here is about rhythm, and so there's within the gene keys, it's also about each gene key is interlinked with another gene key or another group of gene keys, genetically speaking. And this is about the codon ring of seeking. So it's a feeling of being incomplete, and therefore, if we look at ways of how we seek, we can seek in a positive way through creativity, or we can seek negatively and destructive. And this is what can then lead to disappointment, especially if it's operating at an unconscious level. So the dilemma with this is rhythm. So when you're not in tune with that rhythm, then you may feel disturbed inside. And that's why maybe sometimes you may seek and want pleasure and relief on the outside to fight that unsettling feeling within. And that's what then tends to leave you feeling disappointed. So when you then reach the gift level, this is when you change your energy. This is where you change your frequency. And this is what happens when you allow yourself to go within, to take the courage to have to learn to bow to your suffering and just let life, cut through you in a way. Okay, so the ancients for this gene key, they named it the hexagram, which is a gene key, which is, they named it joyousness. So what you can ask yourself, Brody, is how can you be in joy without disappointment? And if you look at ecstatics from past teachers and masters, you'll find that with ecstasy, it's not really just about having the joy without the absence of the sadness. It's the mixture of containing the two, like a cocktail. It's a mixing the sadness and the joy together, so that then everything that you touch and everything that you love then becomes a part of you, and that increases your vitality. So if there's sort of like an undercurrent of tenderness within this gene key here, and it talks a lot about loss, but it's not loss for what it seems to be. It's more of a loss to allow an opening to a greater joy. So the dissatisfaction of this shadow then actually allows you to drive yourself towards the essential. And that essential, from what I feel, is love. Okay, so the secret to this gene key is then how can you be of service to the whole and then serve others? And it's not a way solely to escape your own feelings, but it's a way of feeling more human, to improve the world in some way, so that the more you give, the more your vitality grows. That's how you live out your gift. That's the vitality, you know, so just doing something unexpectedly giving. Now, with the line 2, it's a bit paradoxal, because the line 2, it's about giving, but coming from a place of ease, coming from a place where it's not, there's no resistance. But in some ways, I'd say it's about giving more to you, not trying to rush out to the external world, but bring that attitude inside you, give to yourself. You know, where are you hiding? Right? And a way of going about this is to try and live out and bring about the memory of where you felt, which was your bliss. You know, so if you've experienced a moment of bliss, you can use that as a seed and water its memory. You know, you can use that to flood your cells so that the memory then comes alive again. So you cultivate it and then it becomes stronger. A bit like gardening. You know, you're trying to put in the seed, you water it, you cultivate it. And then it's a very powerful practice. The more you can allow yourself to experience or to relive those memories of bliss, that allows you to shift away from a feeling of disappointment to one of expansion. And within the Gene Keys, they talk about a divine saint. His name was Ramana Maharshi. Some of you may know him, who was always seen as in a state of bliss. And there's stories of him where he's seen in a temple naked, and there are mosquitoes that are feasting upon him, but he's such in a heightened state that he doesn't even notice. So the question is, how can we reach that level? You know, how can we move into that state of bliss? How can we weave into it so that we can bring our awareness to know that it's always there? Because the bliss is inside of you. You know, it's in your DNA. So in this sense, for the second line, the line 2, Richard talks about, the founder, he talks about, for line 2, it's about movement. It's about changing the way you move. And he uses the word called gliding. So it's about, you do things effortlessly. You flow, you slide, you may slip, but it's just easy for you. Like a motto here could be easy is right. Whatever's easy is the right thing for you. And you just go with that. So you will inspire easiness in other people. You will give them that gift. You will offer them that to deal with anything is to allow transition to flow. Your speciality is about change. It's someone who can master a transition potentially. Which is always in movement. It's always in flow. It's like water. It's feminine. It can change in any form. It can become solid. It can become liquid. It can become gas. So you can be like water. You're just flowing with wherever it leads to, and use your environment to embrace that. But if you look at your evolution, which is the one next to it on the right hand side, you're then dealing with what is seen as your challenges in life. That your main issue. So your main issue would be stress, right? So if you're feeling disappointed, then you may feel stressed. And then if you're feeling stressed, it's more like Eckhart Tolle, the author of The Power of Now, he talks about the definition of stress is you're being here, but you want to be somewhere else. And your feeling of wanting to be somewhere else is your feeling of trying to escape. So then the more you're trying to escape and you're trying to give to someone else, you're trying to escape the state that you're in. And that then leads to disappointment. So the way around that is then to try and how can I allow myself to just be within and to sort of unplug. So the line 2 here, it's about relating, but you don't want to, it's not that you don't want to, there's no right or wrong here, but I would say as a guideline, it's trying to bring that relating within you. It's about learning to enjoy your own company. And it's about unplugging to your networks, so just switch yourself off, like from the grid, like just stop relating, just be at one, be with whatever's coming up. Because when you start doing that, then you can rise above that. You can rise and then flow effortlessly from that. And that's where the change comes in. Does that resonate so far?
Hugely. Just before we got on this call, I posted a video of me moving and dancing, just with the word instructing whoever sees it to move.
Yeah.
And just, I've been spending a lot of time alone, and recently got into the practice of completely disconnecting and unplugging and tuning out, because it was the only choice I had. I kind of felt like I reached a point where it's like, if I don't do this, I break. So it's really interesting.
Yeah. So I just want to bring in the art of contemplation, how this works. So in this sense, the more that you pause, that you allow things to come in, the more then you allow yourself to live out in vitality. And that's more than what you can then give to other people. So the evolution, when it talks about restraint, in our world, it's seen as a negative term, but I see it more as something that if you can hold back to see if you're speaking from an emotion like anger, or are you speaking from truth, right? Because if you're speaking from truth, then it will resonate more deeply within you, and it will resonate more to the other person as well, whoever that may be. And that's how things then become easy for you. And that will then leads to a breakthrough. All right. So when you then come to your radiance here talks about your environment, your health, how you can also deal with your internal relationship. It's about the unconscious gene key of being. So your radiance here talks about judgment at the lower end, and at the higher end it's about perfection. So judgment, it's a funny thing actually. It's a bit of a paradox, but when you're looking at you can tie in like the frequencies with different gene keys. So the radiance, your gene key, your radiance is a programming partner of your purpose, which is the 17th gene key. So you realize if ever you're judging in life, you're forming an opinion, and that opinion then becomes fixated. So when it becomes fixated, then you're seeing sort of a narrow point of view in life. And then that then allows you to then build upon that in a sort of belief that you think that is a reality. However, the chain out of that is you're here to provide an impact. So impact involves, it's a powerful line because it's about what you're going to bring out to the whole. So you need solitude to gather and recharge your batteries, to then be able to share it with someone or something or a situation, so that then you can then have exchanges with people, build the friendships and allies, and then have that impact. And that comes through from integrity. And integrity is an interesting one because when you find at the higher levels of this gene key and perfection, the more you're helping out, being of service to other people, the more you actually become disappointed because you realize there's so much work to be done. So it's like an unraveling and keep going within and keep providing the impact to other people. But the more you do so, the more it gives you vitality. And the more it gives you vitality, the more you're seeing the vision of where it's going through in your life. And that's where in your purpose, it becomes farsightedness. You're seeing how the parts are interlinked with the whole. So when you have an opinion, you're seeing only one side of the picture. You're seeing, especially in the world, we see a lot with the logic, the left brain, the scientific view. But then we also have the other view, which is the intuitive side. So how can we bring the two together? And that's what the Gene Key 17 does, your purpose. It's about living both parts out. And when living both parts out, you're then using your voice, and that becomes a power, because then you're able to express what is true to you. You're able to distinguish the truth that lies within, that you can help give out to the world to be of service. And then I just want to gather a little bit on your SQ. So I've just done a little brief intro into your life's work, your four main pillars of your gifts and your genius. The SQ is a sphere which talks about your spiritual quotient. Spiritual quotient, for those who are not aware of, it's about the unraveling and the opening of your heart. So we're going back to the point of conception, of where your heart opened out to life. So for you, it's about being. It talks about, so here it says pleasure, adventure, understanding. So it's about not pleasure of the desires, it's about pleasure of life. You know, you're being a mystic here. It comes back to being ecstatic, that you dive again into the sadness and you dive into the joy and you mix that in together, and that provides the insight. So at the lower end, if you're operating at a lower frequency, which is deafness, it's not so much being deaf to the noise, it's being deaf to the silence. So it's about, you know, if you're being silent, you may want to rush out, you know, you may want to relate to someone else, but it's about going within and allowing yourself to sit with that. And the more you sit with that, then the insights come. And that's, in the art of contemplation, it's the first confirmation that we see. And it comes on a mental level. It can come on an emotional level as well, but it's what draws you to revealing your true nature by breaking a pattern. And that breaking of a pattern can then lead to further insights, and it can happen on an emotional level. And that emotional level then becomes like a breakthrough. So you can look at ways in your life and go back to maybe your childhood and see, how can I live out the time where I could just be living life as it was, you know, with no boundaries, but also giving myself time to understand the people around me. So even though you see they may be operating at their lower frequency, like their shadow, how can I just be there with them, you know, sit there with them, and then let them reveal their true nature as well, by being patient, by being calm. And if you don't feel that, that's okay. You just forgive yourself and say, that's all right. And that will then help build the conditions for a breakthrough to emerge. And then at the high level, that becomes epiphany. So insight is the mental. You receive a mental insight. And then epiphany, when it comes down into the physical. And that's when you can't turn back. Once you go down this path, you've changed. It's like going through initiation. Yeah, I'm just going to stop there. Is that all right, Brody? Or do you have any questions that you'd like to ask?
No, that's a lot to chew on. So I think I'll sit with that for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, hey, David.
Oh, hi. How you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Just bear with me. Sorry, I'm trying to bring your gene key up. Do you guys see that?
Yeah.
Is that showing your profile?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Is there anything that you'd like to ask or would like to gather more insight into?
Particularly my life's work. I've traveled a lot and sometimes drifted a lot. And I've always sought to have a life of meaning and purpose. And yet sometimes that's been difficult. I've had a lot of changes. So I would like more prosperity and a career that really fits my profile.
Okay, cool. So just to let you know, David, that I don't really know what that will be. I can just show you the what, I can't show you the how. But in terms of your prosperity, it's funny you mentioned that you want to look into that. I was kind of honed into your culture. So culture in the profile is one of the trigger points that we see across one of the areas that can be a trigger. We have them in different sequences. So in your activation sequence, which is about your genius, you have it in the evolution. That's one of the triggers. In your Venus, which is about your emotions and your relationships, about love, it's in your IQ, and then it's here in the culture. So with culture, with you, David, this is about being able to work in small teams, probably between 3 and 15. But at the lower end, what it might happen is it might cause agitation to yourself or to those around you, building an environment where it's probably working more towards, not working more towards, but it's building tension and competition. So this Gene Key it's got a competitive spirit at its nature, but if you get sucked into its lower patterns and frequencies, it's sort of operating a level that can probably lead to really dire states of suffering. So the way is, how can I go out of that? So the way out of that is actually quite a beautiful thing. And initiation is about taking the leap and having the courage to go within and to drive out into a new way, into a new path which people haven't seen before. So it doesn't matter whatever modality or teachings you've had before, you're taking the route that the one less traveled. So the one less traveled will then lead you in, or lead you into exploring ways that you can then, your competition then switches not so much about towards other people, but you're competing towards yourself to be a better human being. And that human being is about harnessing them as differences. So you're harnessing, like in sport, you harness the differences of people and you hone in on your skills. So I'll give you an example of, I like football, but in soccer, you look at players like Messi, they have a magic that can't be taught. It's just they're doing something there's no technique to it, towards it, but they've just honed in on their skills so much that it becomes like an art. And that's the same thing with contemplation. So the more that you allow yourself to pause and to go into those areas in your life where there are fears that are being aligned, but you feel there's something more to it, go there, go to those areas, because that itself is the initiation. Now, in Gene Keys, they talk about different levels of initiations in one of the Gene Keys. The highest level of initiation in a human context is sacrifice. And that's what, if we look at our own previous ancestors and masters, such as Jesus Christ, for example, his initiation was sacrifice. And that's the highest form of love. So I'm not saying for you to do that, but I'm just saying is how can you let go of the areas that you don't need and also work towards the essential? Because by doing it, you're leading people and those in organization around you to be empowered. That's the beauty of living out this gift. The competition of striving to be better, and it works through softness. So the dilemma of this Gene Key, the 51, is harshness. Like you feel agitated, so you feel harsh about yourself. So, oh, I want to change. I've got to meditate more. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. You put too much pressure. Can you allow yourself to let go through softness and just say, it's okay. It's okay. It may be tough, but I know I'm going along the right way. And it's a self-parenting of love, of patience, and of giving to yourself. And that will then help the other team and people around you. Now, you also have, so that's your culture, and this is how you can help deal in your environment. When it comes to awakening, it's also paradoxical in nature because there's no technique or form to get there. It doesn't matter that people who maybe have experiences or high levels of transcendence doesn't necessarily mean they're awakened. It's something that you pass through, or you allow consciousness to go through you rather than you trying to attain it, right? There's no sort of cheating. There's no way to cheat around it. I would say it's more of a surrendering process. That's how you allow it to happen. But if you can bring yourself to a space where you allow things to be, it will open up doors. And that happens through exchanges. And to live out yourself in prosperity is to enjoy life. That's your celebration. So I'm looking now at your pearl. Celebration of life is about, you probably like maybe enjoying money, giving it away, giving it for yourself. And that's great, because that's, if you can be of service to others, where it's selfless and you're not having any personal agendas, that's where you thrive the most. because it's easy. It's like, I don't need to do anything. I just got to just give what I need. And I know I'm benefiting myself by giving to other people. So you are a spokesperson. So your vocation and your message is to be a spokesperson to the world. So find those areas where you can give unconditionally to others without wanting anything in return. And that becomes your adventure. That becomes the space where you can live in abundance. All right. So your vocation 35 is about living in abundance, about a fountain that's ever growing and ever streaming out, flowing of energy and expansion. Because if you're operating at a lower level, that's when you're hungry for it. You know, you get hungry, then you become agitated. You become agitated, then you become selfish. But when you move away from that, you're then tying yourself into areas where you can give of service to other people. And it's of being a voice. You're here to bring people together and to influence other people for the greater good. That's your vocation. And that then becomes your brand. So your brand is what is your life's work, but when it operates out of your prosperity, but it's about using the keys of wisdom that you've learned from your experience in life. So practical wisdom and solution to things through simplicity. And by doing it, it means that you allow yourself to, it's quite interesting because the gene key 42, in order to detach, I have this gene key as well. And from my personal experience, in order to detach something, you have to allow yourself to feel all the way. Like to allow whatever to come, but you don't need to act on it. But in your case, you may act on it because you see a bigger picture of what's unfolding. And that bigger what's unfolding is, even though you can see and relate to people, it's also to know that you can be considerate, and then to say, even if it's something of feeling, you're looking at more from an impersonal way and say, look, I've tried this before. I know it works. This is what I can give to you. And that giving of you or to another person is allowing them to succeed. And you're doing it in a way that's detached. That detachment is what's helping them succeed. That's the service that you provide. Yeah, and it's also about understanding your boundaries too. So, and being vulnerable. So you use your vulnerability as a strength. And when you use your vulnerability as a strength, then you're allowing yourself to go deep into the realms to uncover your gifts within the shadows. So you use failure to let go of what's not needed and to graft on what is alive. And what's alive is what you know works for you. And that's where you allow the simple to come out. You know, you use your experience to go in deeper. Yeah. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, or anything else does that resonate?
Yeah. It's very interesting, and it's there's a lot there to process, I would say. So I don't have an initial response right now. Yeah, it's fascinating. Thank you.
I just want to mention one thing, that the Jinky, the culture, it is a portal for an opening. So if you can understand that fear is safe and that you can trust in it and that you can go into the mythic part where no one has else gone before, then you're allowing yourself to open up a new world for you. So this is also it's a warrior gene key. And it's quite interesting because in your profile, you know, you're here to battle your own fears. You're here to take a leap into your higher self. And it comes as a shock. This gene key is about shock. And it's quite interesting because in your EQ, your emotion quotient, about how you can open up your heart emotionally, your 39th is also a warrior gene key. You know, it's also another way of provocation is about or dynamism is how can I be considerate, but in a kind way? You know, how can I choose? Do I choose to be kind, or do I choose to be right? Or how do I respond? How would love respond to the situation? So that you can then allow yourself to transform from within. And that allows then yourself to be liberated in some form. You see, so you've got these really strong keys of warrior spirit that you can turn within and allow it to approach the softness. And that happens through pausing. So giving yourself pausing, giving yourself time and patience, those all interlink to provide trust. And the trust is what allows the fear to be safe. Anything, I mean, ultimately fear is an illusion. Ultimately death is an illusion, because the gene key 42 is a gene key of dying. So how can I celebrate? If you're dying, say, oh, well, just enjoy the moment. Just celebrate life. You know, keep giving away. The more you're giving, the more you're helping yourself. Yeah. So I hope that's been of benefit, David.
Yeah, thank you.
I might
Celebrate death. I like that.
Yeah, celebrate death, because if you're dying, you're also you're having a rebirth, right? They're two of the same coin. The two facets of the same coin. So the dying is a letting go. The dying is a letting go of what is needed and working towards what I need. That provides you the initiative and the initiation to go to the path that's less traveled. It allows you to be selfless, to give from a space of your heart instead of looking at it from the mind. You allow the heart to serve the mind. Sorry, the mind to serve the heart. You have you've got gene keys. I feel that's you can get a lot of money. So it's about how can I use that money wisely, right? You've got a leadership potential here. The 5 is a leadership gene key. It's a leadership line, an expression, an energy that you carry and that you can be of influence to other people. And more so because you're a line 4 in your vocations about delivering that message. And you can draw in a lot of people. You know, you can help influence, you can help other people come into your world, and you give them the platform to them influence, for you to influence them in a positive way. And it's through giving, right? The quickest way to short circuit your shadows is to give unconditionally to all areas of your life, all areas. That's for anyone watching. You know, we don't see that in the world today. We're too focused on bartering consciousness. We're too focused on, oh, I give and I will receive in some form. But can we let go of where the expectation will come from? Can we work with expectation and not be a victim of it? Can we just give for the sake of it? And it will return to us in some other form. And that's what empowers you. That's what empowers your team, and what empowers your organization, and what empowers the world. And that's what we need to see. At least that's my perspective. I know we're running a little bit out of time. I did promise one quick one. Cass, do you want me to go with you? I know others have asked as well, but I just had some emails and I responded to them first. Is there anything that you want to dive deeply or want to know more, or you'd like to share about? Or any gene key that you want to work on? Or...
Yeah, so I'm doing the Delta now, and I'm on the 2nd position, which is all about emotions in relationships, and I also do the Venus sequence now. So maybe this part. I'm actually on the SQ now, so maybe that would be.
You like to go to the SQ again?
No, we can go to vocation. I just finished with the SQ just like I think yesterday, so maybe the next step would be
the vocation, your message, what you deliver out to the world. Can I backtrack and go into your attraction? I don't know why I just felt drawn to that. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah.
You talked about relationships, and attraction is all about relationships and how you deal with it intimately, and also in any form, whether it be through business or through friends. So the attraction that obviously you may know, this is about being able to play, be like the child and play again, and to see through the eyes of innocence. So the line 6, obviously it can maybe be disappointed because it's looking at the perfect picture of where a relationship is. But the idea is of how can I bring that back into as a child, where the only thing that was my world was the toy, and that I got myself allow myself just to live that through seeing with new eyes, and then like through hearing with new ears as well. So it's bringing yourself back into a childlike state. So because if you don't, then you're allowing yourself to expect things, and that can then maybe lead to chaos and then to corruption. So the way out of that is to cooperate with yourself and to allow the person to be as they are. Because when you start doing that, and through the innocence, then you're not escaping the situation. You know, with your IQ, you're not escaping it. You're not looking at ways of trying to hide and to move away from it. You're staying in the room. And then by staying in the room, then you're allowing the love that what a child would see with the parent, because that's probably seen as the strongest form of love there is in humanity. And how can you experience that on a tender self for your, you know, on your own? How can you allow that love to blossom in your life? Because if you're allowing yourself, and that is your certainty, that's where you bring your certainty in your life, by creating a rhythm and a routine that gives it time and space for things to be. And that is also about dealing and allowing the stillness and the silence to come through. So can you create those conditions of where you can pause more often and just see it for what it is, without putting an expectation or a veil over it, right? Because an uneasiness in your vocation, it's again, you know, it comes through a feeling of, you know, like a discomfort or a bother. And the line 3 is about strategy. It's about implementing something new and something fresh and exchanging. But can you bring those exchanges from what you learned from innocence out into the world? You know, the clarity comes from being soft and being open, and just being like, I think the 57 is about the winds of change, you know, by going in with the winds, about allowing to flow with that nature, to go where it needs to go, so you don't hold on to anything. And it's the same thing with your EQ. Your EQ is about inertia, so it's about sitting with that, because the more you sit with something, the more it becomes a buildup for a momentum to happen. And that momentum, that energy that is stored and lying stagnant, then releases itself through determination. And that determination then leads to then insights, and those insights then lead to clarity that you haven't seen before. But you see it more from soft eyes. You know, you're approaching it from a different level, like a child does. You're just seeing it as it is. So it's allowing yourself to be playful with that and being certain from within. That opens up something. Does that resonate, Gaz?
Yes, thank you very much. It does.
Just to come back, so that's just a quick intro into how a reading can be done with the Gene Keys, but I just want to just emphasize that the work with Gene Keys, it is a path of self-illumination. It does help to receive a reading or to work collectively as well, because then would create the conditions for a change to emerge, not just on a physical level, but also deep within your DNA. And I've had a few people who I've been piloted with in small groups 2 years ago, and they've had profound experiences and breakthroughs. And one of them here was Francesca, who just found the experience to be quite of a place that she felt that she could go and felt trusted. And the same thing happened with Wei Li. She didn't really understand the Gene Keys as well, but through the sessions, it gave her time to unfold the true meaning lying latent within her DNA, especially when we're talking about the different areas of her life in regards to her life's work and evolution. Same thing with Selena as well. As an ambassador as well that I am, it's about providing the space so that people can feel that they are safe, but also so that then we can then start receiving those breakthroughs for change to emerge and to be the shining light that we can give to ourselves and to the world. So if you guys are interested, I am offering personal readings, what they mean to you, how to activate your purpose, identify your shadow, your gift, in your city. I do have a discounted price that's down from $160 to $90. I will also be opening up a 16-week transformational journey into your 4 main pillars of your life, including your life's work, your evolution, your radiance, and your purpose. And each month we'll be covering a theme of those 4 main themes. So if you're interested, just drop me a line. My website's www.costa.global. You can download your Gene Keys profile there. I'm also can be connected on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
I just asked you in the chat, but I can ask in person. These categories that you talked about, like you said that the 25 was it, or the 51? I can't remember. The 51 I think was like a warrior gene. How many of these categories are there? I'm just curious. Like, are they themes that each gene key falls under, or?
Yeah, so when I'm doing the reading, I'm reading partly from intuition. I'm also reading partly through the notes that I've gathered, because it relays, there's an energy behind the words. And that's also what I'm trying to bring across through understanding why it's important to pause, because through pausing and by being in the gap, you then reveal what's underneath that, and that what happens with the gene keys. So in the gene keys, it's holographic by nature, so it connects everything with anything else. So there are certain gene keys which can be seen as code. Well, they're all codes. So the 51, for example, is a gene key warrior code, and I understand that there's 3 of them. There's the 51, the 39, and the 38. But it doesn't matter if you don't have the gene keys in your profile, those ones, they are all in our system, because the 64, the number 64 is universal. It's universal codes that we see in the whole spectrum of time and space itself. And it's what actually is the vacuum that created the universe. We also have 64 codons. So those 64 codons is what relates to the 64 gene keys. So even if I'm talking about a certain gene key, if it resonates with you, it might open up something in you. It has to, because the gene key is in you too. The profile itself is just a blueprint of your specific gene keys that you can unlock by taking yourself onto a journey. And it's an invitation to unlock those areas in your life so that you can live out your genius, and that's what's really cool about this. It's about knowing that if you look within, you will unlock your gifts. Every shadow contains a gift.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
No, pleasure. So thank you all for being here and participating. I wish you well. I'll drop you guys an email as well with all the links and a recording of this if you like. So thank you all, and I hope to see you soon sometime else. Thanks.